Thanks for
Not
that
for a
heads
couple
up.
of minutes. Yeah, exactly. I know I've gotten in trouble a couple of times. I try to be really, really careful. So, yeah, what's been going on? How you doing?
Oh, I've been well. Evolving and expanding, shifting. Good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. One, excuse me. Once I figured out who you were, because we did probably what 4 or 5 shows together. I'm thinking. I know we did at least 2 or 3.
At
But
least 3, I
anyway,
believe. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, and sometimes it's a struggle for me to remember, you know, what happened on the last day. But it's been a couple of years, maybe 3 years, and but I remember you're I think in North Carolina. Is
Correct.
that right? And you live on a property. I think it's yours, and you have a lot of animals there, both domesticated and not. There's a lot of energy on the land. I remember that. I'm getting all this
Yes.
third eye.
All right.
I,
It's all coming back.
yeah, I remember there's like a PowerPoint on the property, or a portal or sacred something's going on. And I remember some
That's for
other
sure.
stuff. I remember some other stuff on the peripheral, but I can't recall at the moment. But yeah, so welcome back. Got 24 people in the house. They'll be coming. We've been
Thank
getting
you.
suppressed. Yeah, we've been getting suppressed.
Yeah.
Let me just take a moment real quick and just thank everybody for the love and support and contributions. Allow us to keep doing this every day. We're going to have some really exciting stuff coming out that we've been working on for a long time. So, about 4 or 5 years, but it's going to be really cool. So, and it wouldn't be possible if, we didn't have a community, because it's not about me or Morgan or us. It's about all of us. And that's what it's all about. So we got Shivani Kumara back in the house. It's been a while, and let's see where things are. I don't know. Where do you want to start?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the last time I was on was 2019. So, yeah, I just like to keep people guessing. I've changed my name a couple times in between then. Gone through some amazing, and yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
To say the least. Well, I
Right.
mean, and everything's moving so fast, and we have more and more streams that we're uh, aware of and becoming more clear on, I guess, more clarity, more understanding. Everything's paralleling, but there seems to be a pretty common narrative by a lot of people that come on this show. And I would say, like, because I also remember that you're tapped in. I can't remember if it's astrology, but you're tapped into a couple of things that you pull in some intel. I remember that about you too. But anyway, I would say the story, the gist of the story is somebody shot a starter pistol off this summer. Maybe it was the Mother Goddess. I don't know. There was a period at the end of August. We get spit out of that. A lot of stuff happened. That's when the Soulogy Fest was. And then September, October, November, maybe till the 22nd November, there was a lot of humility. There was a lot of humble pie being served. There were people coming on the show, no matter what their abilities and experiences had been, that were just human, just like, whoa. Like, you could just look at them and tell, like, I'm looking at you. Hey, you don't have to say anything. I know you've been through the same thing or experienced the same thing I have. But then there was kind of a lull, maybe between, say, the 22nd, some people might say 11/11, and the solstice. But from the solstice, Christmas Day, that whole period gets shot out into January. Of course, we passed the 10-year mark of the December 21st, 2021, and it's a new world. Like, everything we experience is gone. I think the only other thing I'd add, that there was a lot of ego death and identity death throughout the last half of last year. So I don't know if that resonates with you, but what was it like for you these last few months, and certainly this year in 2023?
Yeah, 100% resonate. Yeah, it's definitely been a lot of opportunities. And once you have, a more evolved perspective and have shifted out of victimizer consciousness, then these experiences that we have, they can be seen as, you know, instead of these things are happening to me, it's like, oh, here's another opportunity for me. And you can begin to just kind of flow through them and navigate through these things that once triggered you and spun you off for however long, where you can be like, oh, here's that thing again. And you don't get triggered by it anymore. So then it's just like, okay, then it just kind of flows right on out of your field. So it's been a really beautiful evolution in that.
And like where you're at on your property, are you still there?
I am.
Mm-hmm. And with everything that you were working on there, because I remember you were working on some kind of sanctuary or something to afford two things: a better, say better options for animals, and also the connectivity of the animal kingdom with what's happening as well. And I think maybe throw some elementals in there. But what's going on your property? Are you getting any visitations? And by the way, we have a film. I believe I can show it. I'm not quite sure if I can show it. Yes, I can show it. Yeah. And I don't know what the hell that is, but I would love to know what it is. And
Yeah.
whatever order you want to go in.
Well, I'll just share a little bit about the sanctuary. I've been here since 2006. I started the sanctuary in Florida in 2001. I was an animal cruelty investigator down there. So, as a child, I was always drawn to animals, very much like an animal magnet. I'm an animal empath. And for me, I had all this love in my heart, and animals were safe. The unconditional love of animals is just easy. And, it took me going through my awakening and kind of coming to the awareness that I had a lot of really deeply suppressed wounds and traumas and different things that kind of, caused me to show up in life in a certain way. And once you begin to clear away those distortions and do that shadow work, then it's just like, oh, wow. I was given the message that this is way more than a place of healing for animals. This is a place of healing for people. And so to begin to invite people to come, and to be honest, like there was a period of time where I had the energy of waiting for, a revaluation, waiting for Nasara, Jasara, like whatever it is that, kind of has kept light workers or whoever has these hearts of service to be like, I'm waiting for this thing to happen before I can do what it is, that I'm really called here to do. And, it came into my awareness, like, start somewhere. It's not perfect. And that's part of the, what I've been working through is that perfectionism is like, I want everything to be perfect. Well, it's like, well, I've got this little cabin that I used to do my meditations in. Okay, renovate that, start there. Oh, I have this little dome on the property. Okay, I need some help to get that accommodative, like a nice place to stay. And so I've got it on Airbnb. And this past summer was like, okay, it's kind of getting my feet wet with having people come. And every now and then I'd have people that would be like, oh my gosh, this place, like they're on the path, being in these frequencies, being on this land that's been, tuned to this high frequency. People were experiencing incredible shifts. I had a lady that came and she felt like she was, connected with angels and a lot of other things like that. So it's like, oh, wow. Okay. Now it's like just really feeling into having those who do have these hearts of service to be able to come here to rest and revive and really recharge their light on this place that is truly spectacular. So it's like being immersed in nature and then also, being able to experience the unconditional love of the animals. And it's incredibly healing. So I'm grateful to be a steward of this land and to be moving forward with, the vision of what it is I know I'm here to do.
Yeah. And now are you, because it's starting to happen, but there's not a lot of us, over these past 10, 11 years that have found the level, other than one or two people, found the level of connection that we found virtually. Like most of the community connections are online. Are you finding with having a local place like that you're developing some of that continuity locally?
Absolutely. Asheville, it's kind of like a mecca for people. This whole area, these mountains are quartz mountains. Everything's amplified here. This land in general is covered in quartz and mica. And I feel like there's ley lines that are close to here that are drawing people into this area. I hear all the time, I don't know what it is, but I'm being drawn to the, to the mountains. I'm drawn to the Asheville area or the outskirts because Asheville's become incredibly saturated and the housing market is just ridiculous. So people are now looking on the outskirts and communities are coming together. It's like people have the awareness, like, wow, like the thing to do is, do you have water? Are you able to grow your own food? The shit hits the fan is like, are you going to be able to have those resources available to be able to sustain yourself? And then coming together as community. And because what, part of my lesson has been is like, I legitimately cannot do this myself. I've tried to carry this. I've held this container. I've had people that have like, they've been beautiful opportunities for growth and for me to experience the contrast of like, oh, this is really not what I intended. So getting more specific. And now I have a beautiful, she's like a soul sister to me who came, a dear sister Ray. They met at the Black Mountain watering hole. She's like, I've been calling in the, super conscious people. And
you're talking about Ray. Are you talking about Ray?
Yeah, Ray. Beautiful Ray. She introduced me to Joie. Joie's here now, and she's just like, we've been going through.
You're talking about Ray Red. What's her last name?
Ray Lee.
Yeah, Ray Reddick Lee. Yeah, she sent me. Yeah. I carry it with me. She sent me this thing, a couple of things, and I
love her so much.
She's super cool. So you guys are hanging like Thelma and Louise.
Right? Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So how do you now? I can't remember. Do you? Because I mean, you seem very much like a nature being, right? Like a elemental animal, obviously, But do you get any type? Are you picking up on anything? Do you feel anything different? Do you feel like that we're in really in a new place? And what are your thoughts on, like the state of the union, like how we're doing? Is our trajectory good? Is there a lot of interference? Are we quote, lack of a better word, winning? Are we past the 50% point? However you want to put it.
Well, we already won. The light already won. And I think so much of it is like, it's where we give in our energy and attention, So it's like if you're spending a lot of time going down the rabbit holes of, oh, this is happening, and oh, now they're doing this, and I'll like be the first to admit I spent some time going down those rabbit holes and getting like sucked into different things. And for me, it was like I just had the awareness, like, listening to this intel or following this person or listening to this podcast is not doing anything except pulling me out of alignment. It's pulling me away from my direct connection with source. And once I like completely just cut it all out, then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wow. Okay. It was siphoning my energy. Yeah. So I'm just like, just inviting people to be mindful of what are you listening to? What are you giving your attention to? And are you just waiting? Are you waiting for someone to come in and save you, or this big shift to happen, or, whatever you think it is going to happen? Like, it's right here, it's right now. And we're the ones that are responsible for creating this shift. And it's like how we're showing up in every moment when we're out in community, when we're getting around other people who may not be vibrating on the same frequency that you are. They're on a completely other bandwidth of frequency. Or do you have judgment and animosity toward them and like, ugh, those silly people? Or do you like go into your heart center and have love and have compassion for them and just, be that emanation of love that we are, not from a place of judgment, just acceptance of like, they are where they are on their journey and just loving them where they are and not having any type of judgment for, the path that they're on.
Yeah, it's like it's like a constant communion in a present moment life review, constant, right? It's moving to that point where the dialogue is really just us and the universe. We're keeping ourselves in check, and new methods of communication, new everything being built by new bands of frequency is happening for at least some people. I don't know how the universe works. I don't know how the multiversal sacred geometry looks within the grid that we're laying down here. But yeah, I think it's starting to, all of our work is starting to show results, is how I would put it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A lot of people talked about, toward the end of last year, that last part of the year, I mean, the eye of the needle, just a lot of the deepest, darkest, unconscious parts of us, however you want to put it. And of course, with that, the amazing expansions that virtually are coming almost simultaneously, right? I mean,
Right.
I was, Judith Kuzo was in the audience in the last show, and I saw a post she put up during the last period, which I think was right around the 14th, 15th of February through about 6 or 7 days. But like the first part of that, people were like, what the hell just happened? And she said, she had a really short post, and she said something like, man, the energy is off the charts. It's incredible. I'm just using my own words. It comes in and it just takes, I don't know what her words were, but like takes your breath away, takes you out, just surrender, and then you come out of it, and before you can even like catch your breath, you get the next one. And so, but again, the reason I brought that up is because it seems like the time between the, whatever the force is, the energy trigger, whatever you want to call it, and the expansion is almost becoming simultaneous.
Right. Absolutely.
But did you go through that kind of stuff on a personal level toward the end of last year, or what kind of energetic experience were you having?
This past year, or since the last time we talked?
Oh, well, that's that's like, if that's 3 or 4 years, that's like 50 or 100 years.
Exactly.
This past
Exactly.
10. No, I mean more
Yeah.
like recent, like, maybe the end of last year,
Well,
this year, this month.
I've just been in this place of like surrender and trusting. Trusting as I'm guided to do. So I saw a brother who was creating codes on the sands on the beaches of Siesta in Sarasota, which is where I'm from, where I'm born and raised in Sarasota. And when I saw them, just looking at the pictures of them, I was like activated by them. And I'm like, oh, I have to go there. So I went to Sarasota and really feel like I was doing some personal like healing, but I felt like I was also picking up codes, because then the second part of that, I went to Edisto Island, which it's in between a couple of military bases. And I've got a dear sister that lives there as well. And it's been intense for her. She's doing a lot of work. They've sonic booms and, military craft and different things flying over. And I just like called, okay, I'm going to go sit on the beach. I brought some crystals with me and I just started speaking. And then it was just like 11 military craft start flying over. And I'm just like, like just like emanating this love. And this man comes and he's like, wow, he's like, I've lived here for 8 years. I've never seen anything like that. I was like, I was like, okay. Like, all right, good stuff here.
What kind?
I was guided to, a couple of days later, I went down to the Bimini area. If you guys, know about Edgar Cayce, he spoke of Bimini being the remnants of Atlantis. And, I've historically really resonated with Lemuria, and I've had some really profound experiences at Shasta and different things that have happened. But I always felt this like kind of like when it came to Atlantis, and I needed to go. Like I was like, okay, I've got to go clear whatever distortion this is. And so I went down there. Was on a cruise ship with like 6,000 passengers, and I don't know how many crew. I live like, I'm on 40 acres. I don't have a whole lot of outside interference in my field. So for me, it was like, ooh, wow, this is like intense, But again, it was just like, it's our opportunities to stay in that place of centeredness and connection and alignment, regardless of whatever, whatever's in your field. So it was a really beautiful opportunity for me. And when I got out on the beach, it was just like, whoa, wow, I really see what I'm clearing here. It was like, I went to this whole like forgiveness thing that has to do with the Ziani massacre. It was like the Lemurian Holocaust. And then this part of it was just like, oh, wow. So like I had some kind of role in, you know, the not source part of it. And to be like, okay, it's super easy for me to forgive those who I perceived as maybe did something to me. But to have forgiveness for myself, that was like a whole other level. So that was like this whole other initiation that I had to go through. And then it was just like, wow, it's a lot easier for me to forgive others than it is to forgive myself. But knowing like in order to clear this distortion, I had to. And so it was just like, oh, wow. And then I feel like as soon as we are able to, like, you know, how quickly we choose to process through these things that come into our field, it's like, oh, that allows us to hold more light. That allows us to expand even more, to open our hearts even further. And so it's like, oh, wow. It's just like seeing that beautiful, it's like a blending and a coming together and emerging of it all. Because it really like, it is all, you know, we are all.
Exactly. Well, that feels, I mean, I can speak to that. I mean, I won't, but I mean, I've gone through the same thing, like where you go back to these places and that, and whether it be, you know, in the physical, etherically, or both, right? And that's what happens. You're like, okay, what am I doing here? You know, and you know, those are the bad guys, and then you start to understand that we basically can't shift until we go back to clean up our shift, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So I think that's a great sign, because I think that lends to something that seems to be occurring this year as we've gotten into it, and that is the lessening and lessening of judgment, which means closer and closer to pure compassion. And I think these types of episodes, that's why I feel like no matter what is presented in the outside world, it's the key is this. The key is the memories that come up through our stories, where we're not even trying to activate. Well, we might have the intention to activate and share with each other, but verbatim to say, oh, I need to tell you this because it's going to make you. No, I think it's just through the familiarity and the resonance in the vibrational field that we've not been collectively sensitive to, because we were desensitized. But I think this is what happens. It's like looking in each other's eyes and seeing the truth, and that truth creates is creating such an expansion within us that we are literally, and I'm going to say it, impervious to anything but by our own choice. We're getting to the point now where, as quantum thought creators, we have the potential to be in the 99th percentile or the 95th percent, whatever, in constructive, conscious thoughts.
Absolutely. In every moment.
Yeah.
That's our grace.
Yeah. That's our code. That's a code we offer the universe. This is what we're giving that those parts of us can't, because they're not in our bodies. They can you know, and I guess as we embody, it's happening, you know, micro, macro.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Now, did you do something with, okay, I got this thing. All right. I'm going to see if I can pull it up. Let me see here. Okay. Boom. This is your deal. So you're going to have to tell us what this is. What's going on here? Can y'all see that? Now this is, hang on. Okay. What the hell is this? Can you tell us?
Yeah. So there's a place here on the land. I used to call it the landing pad. I call it the sacred site. And some friends and I went out there with night vision goggles.
Okay.
And we were all looking up the night sky. And all of a sudden I felt this energy and I went like this, whoa, and I had 3 other people with me because I've had a lot of experiences and I've been by myself and I didn't have my phone with me. And then I'll come back and I'll tell my kids like, oh my God, I saw a fairy and all this stuff. And my kids are like, okay, Mom. No, like really, legitimately, I did. Well, this time I had 3 other adults with me, sober. We're not on any, mind altering substances here. We just went out there to, look up in the sky, and all these beings came out of the rocks. I'll in the chat, I'll post a picture of what it looks like during the day, but we turned the night vision off because it was like, oh, like they're too bright. It's going to mess up the night vision. Turn them off. You didn't even need them. And then we're just all just like, wow, I just like felt all this like love energy. And I felt this appreciation that they had because my friend Jean and I had been going out there. Now, this is a place on the land that, some really terrible things happened. They blew the side of the mountain off. It was owned by a mining company, and they literally like just raped the land looking for, some rare earth minerals and different things. And so Jean and I went out there and we were doing a lot of clearing. I had a little fundraiser out there. A friend of mine came and did some quantum activations and had a little gathering out there. And I really feel like they showed themselves. They came out to be like, thank you. Thank you for doing this work, for holding this container. And then I started speaking a stream, and it was just, I can't even tell you how activated I was just by being in the presence.
I'm getting activated watching it. Now, tell me this, because I'm slow, because I see so much in this. It's freaking me out.
Yeah.
But
so
tell me, I have a human question. Yeah. What am I looking at? I mean, well, like if it's daylight.
This is me recording all these beams, light beams, plasma beams that literally just poured out of the rocks.
Oh, so this is if we were looking in the daytime, we would see Grandfather Rock.
It would just be a rock, like a whole bunch of rock.
Wow.
And there's no other, interference with any type of city lights. Someone was like, oh, they're glowworms. No, sorry. Man. This was like, they were enormous. It was not glowworms.
No, that's
like, and they were interactive. The more I was like speaking, then it was like, oh, wow. It was like, they were like moving as one, but they were individuated as well. And they were very, the more we were like in our hearts and just opening, then it was like, oh, they were beginning to change colors. And it was just like,
that's like, I want that to happen to me. I've never had that type of experience with, because I can connect with them, and I've been shown things with them, but it's all third eye, if I think about it. Other than when I was in Sedona, most of the last half of last year, one thing I did notice is everywhere I went, because I was typically driving on the same 8 or 9 miles every day to and from. And I would notice that there were different, you might say faces, but I would say different energies in the same place that I've been driving by day after day. And I know that wasn't there, kind of thing, right? Like more was coming out, like more faces were coming out. And that's what that made me think of too, when I was watching that. It's like, God, we're talking about inner Earth, and we're talking about the galactics coming down, and the elementals, but what about the ones that are solid? You know what I mean? What about the Grandfather Rocks and the Mother in the water and the animals? You know what I mean? Like, that's to me closer to us. And if it's all us, it would make sense to kind of ground ourselves with what's closest to us and what, as we know, because we operate on what we believe, right? Like what we have faith in. It'd be a lot easier to get to a place where you can see the connectivity of the universe with those things that we can see with our sense with our 5 senses and the others.
Right.
No, what a great video. You don't mind if I put that in the Soulogy archives, do you?
No, absolutely.
I'll start when we start expanding the material again, stuff like that. I think, like even watching something like that, I think carries code for people. You just never know. The soul sees it, even if the human doesn't get it.
Exactly.
We're downloading each other. You know?
Right.
So you mentioned speaking, and if I remember correctly, yours is very unique. But did you want to do anything like that? Did you want to do any type of light language or whatever?
Probably not today, but I appreciate the invitation.
Well, look, this is the way it is, right? I mean, this is part of this new earth, if we want to call it that, and it seems to be really showing itself this year more and more every day, is being direct, you know, and no means no. And we don't need to offer explanations.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I'm seeing the comments here. That's Denise. I love you, Denise.
What'd she say?
Yes, please do.
Oh, I did. Oh, here we go. God, they're coming so fast. I can't.
Yeah.
Well, if you feel like it. If you feel like it. But we still got a little time. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Because you already kind of like, I mean, like you pretty much described what's kind of the best operating system right now. Like that's kind of like what we're all coming together as we compare notes. What do you foresee? Like, what do you foresee for yourself? Whether it be the dream or this is within my grasp, and what do you see like with the community and then with the collective?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm shown this vision here and the expansion of that. I've been putting the energy into what I'm, showing them to be creating here. And I see the evolution of that. So I've got these little, these little accommodations now, but it's like I'm shown visions of domes. And I've been doing a lot of research on, the types of structures that I'd like to have here on the property to give people a place to come stay so that we could have, larger gatherings and events. And because I'm out there, I mean, I'm an hour from Asheville. I'm in the rural mountains, which is lovely. It's super pristine, but it's a decent drive to get here. And it's nice to allow people to come and stay for a couple days because, whether you're on the path or just the divinely orchestrated Airbnb person, to come here and to be on this land, you're going to become entrained with the frequencies that have been cultivated here. So like you're in this frequency, and it's like, okay, well, whether you're planting a seed or it's going to like cause that shift for people to be like, oh, wow, now I get this. Now I remember this, to be able to take people out on the land and to, share with them different tools and techniques that can help us stay in this place of calm and peace and centeredness, regardless of what's going on in the outside illusion, to be able to nourish people. I have a real passion for whole food, plant-based living and to be able to cook nourishing, nutritious foods for people, and especially for people who, are of service, to come here and to give them, a chance to rest, to rejuvenate in these beautiful energies. And oh my gosh, if you've got like a heart for animals, it's just like, it's so much fun. So really to be able to continue to share. I'm just grateful for the warmer weather that's coming through this like period of like inwardness through this winter. And now it's like, ooh, wow, I'm ready. And I feel like, it all unfolds in the perfect and divine right time. But I've needed to like navigate through these different opportunities to clear away more densities and distortions that I held within my own field so that I could be in a clear place to hold space for others.
Bingo.
Yeah.
You said it. That's second to the last sentence. Yeah, that's what we're describing. My friend Shannon McMillan Thompson, my friend, and her dog Yeti saw you at the drum circle in Nashville once, And then
Oh,
it also reminded me too. I have a friend. She's been on the show. Really cool chick like Shannon, and she's on a I want to say 50 acres with about 8 people, and they're doing the whole thing. Community. She came on the show. She said how they weren't all like listening to stuff like this. That was part of the homogeny occurring. Was the connectivity and like they're always doing something. They're working with the land. They're planting crops. But she's in North Carolina, and I think she's somewhere near you because I know she's near Asheville. So I'll
oh,
see. Yeah, I'll see if I can. Connect you guys because I'm
yeah, I
pretty
would love
sure
that.
near. I'm pretty sure you're near. God, well, I was going to ask you something. Oh, the thing with the domes. Now I don't know if you know this, but we just had a show. We talked about domes, and then
Of course.
Morgan had this whole series of channeling about domes, and then the dome. This was like the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, and I was just curious, and I realized that the dome structure. They have those, like you see those on, properties when people sometimes will be making community. I don't know all the names of these things, but they definitely have seen domes. Is there some significance to that in your mind, or is it more of just, hey, this is a building we can put out here, we can duplicate out here? Is there a significance to the dome thing?
Well, when I first, had my quickening or my spiritual awakening, I started to do routine energy work. And I was shown a vision of domes when I was told that this was more than a place of healing for animals. And then I was shown it came through as pods, but now I've it's kind of domes. And I've looked into what would be best for this area, given the climate of Western North Carolina. It tends to be a little bit more wet. And I'm leaning towards Aircrete. I resonate with hempcrete, but from what I understand, it takes a lot longer to dry. And so that might not be conducive for this climate. But I really would love to alchemy, so into the mix to put crushed crystals, sacred water into the mix. Thankfully I've come into the awareness of the things that I once considered to be sacred geometry are actually Metatronic reversals. So I'm really grateful that things did not unfold as quickly as I would have liked them to. And now it's okay, now I'm going to use Christic geometry. So I'm grateful for that awareness. And it's all unfolding in the perfect and divine right time for sure.
So is it a because you called it Crete, so I would imagine you're pouring it, or is it modular, or do you have a form that you pour into?
So they have Aircrete workshops. There's a company called Dome Gaia. If you look on YouTube, you can see there's this dome home that was built in Thailand for $11,000, but it's basically Portland cement. Khalil Gibran's nephew is the one who kind of came up with this, and they basically infuse it with foam. Now I think they have foaming agents, but I actually believe that you could use 7th generation dish soap or something like that. That's maybe not as, I don't know what's in the chemicals that creates the foaming agent. You could probably use Dawn, but I don't really resonate with that company either. But 7th generation was probably bought out by one of them anyway. So,
but are you pouring this into a modular?
No, so you make forms. You pour to make blocks. But because it's Aircrete, they're super light and it's a lot easier to work with than concrete blocks. So instead of a monolithic dome where you've got to blow up this form to pour it over, these are blocks that you make, and you go around and you stack them, and then you make the dome that way. So
I got you.
I've not taken the workshop. This is just my understanding.
No, it sounds very cool. A few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, I in my travels, I went to stay with some friends, and they had built a pyramid. And on the outside, it kind of looked like a teepee colors, it was, and he built it out of wood and whatever. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because he formed it from the base, and he put everything into it. Like I slept in it for 9 days, and it had like an upstairs loft where you slept, and a pretty good sized down area. It was pretty good size. It was probably 15 feet across, maybe 12, 15 feet across. But anyway, so in the foundational form, he put, like say it was 144 rebar, but everything was there. The geometry that was in the construction was purposely, like there was diamonds and there was this and that. So the reason I'm saying that, because I think that's what you're talking about, is like the extent that you could actually go to in something like that, where you're actually forming it from the ground up, because you got shapes, you've got color, you've got even what he had was like some writing and symbols, light language, stuff like that. So it was like really, really, really kind of a powerful place. Yeah. So having like 20 domes, let's have a gathering. I mean, that would be powerful. The land would be powerful, right? I mean, there's a reason if you take aerial photography of, like I saw one of the Vatican City the other day, and you look at it from the top down, that's not by some coincidence that things look the way they do. They're positioned because whoever was building them had knowledge, at least passed down, or even from their own intelligence, where they were working with the land through the PowerPoints, meridians, and all that stuff, which it sounds like that's what you do at your property.
Yeah, just getting very intentional. With the building and honoring the land and asking the land. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is alive, and that's what I was saying earlier. It just makes sense to me. But I'm like you. I'm more organic, trees, outside. I don't really care for the cities much anymore. But you can still go find trees. You can go for walks and all that. But it just makes sense to me that Todd, I'll just speak for myself, will have a easier way of bridging from here to there if I start with those things closest to me. And I guess that's what we're doing with our human interactions. And maybe some of us are further along, and maybe some of us are, part of our specialty is that relationship with the animal kingdom, like you, because you have a very special relationship with it. I mean, even before you were kind of in this arena, you were basically healing them.
Yeah, that's part of how I, kind of got on this path. I've been, working with animals and healing animals my whole life. Animals just magnetically being drawn to me. And then I fell and broke my wrist, and I healed it in a week. And I was just like, whoa, wow, like this is what I do with animals. It works for people too. And then I took a, crystals class at a community college. And when the lady put the stones on me, it was just like, well, I was ready, I'd laid the perfect foundation. I didn't watch TV and didn't, just kept a really clear, pure field, which enabled me to hold a lot of frequency really quickly.
Is it the same communication style for you? Because you're kind of multi, I'm talking about like at the, in all ways, but I mean, with these, let's just say the earthly stuff. But is there a difference in how you telepath or communicate with, say, the trees, the animals, the elementals, because you're there with them all, and any other type of nature, earth beings?
Yeah, I mean, that's when my natural, light language or my natural language comes out more, especially with the animals. I'll sing to them, and when I'm walking in the woods, I'm singing to the trees, and I speak like that when I'm in session with people, and when I'm out in the land and different things. But when I've got Airbnb guests, that are tours that are coming for a tour of the animal sanctuary, or come have a rest and revive at a retreat experience, I'm not going to be speaking my light language to them. Sometimes I'll ask people, if spirit guides me to speak a stream, I will. But for the most part, people they want to hear human language. Like the animals, I think they prefer the light language, you know. It's just a frequency of it, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Or the language that has no verbalization at all.
Right.
That one.
Right. Yeah.
I think I don't consider myself a musician, but my friends are musicians, and I sit in with them, and they would talk about the pockets, because I would only do lyrical, melody and lyrical, right? And so, you know, you have beats and stuff, and both of them longtime musicians, but they have these things they call the pockets, the pause. And after doing many, many sessions with them, I started to realize what it was. And it just reminds me, like the pause, the pocket is like that moment that where the real communication kind of like falls in line, like Tetris, like these little, I guess you could call them intuitive or telepathic, but there definitely silence seems to be speaking, or pockets of silence seem to be speaking very, very loudly. And it looks like an essential part of our collaborations going forward is respecting that. No different than me saying, hey, you want to do something? Didn't matter to me. And no, okay, fine. I find this in my messages and my emails, because I have a lot of them and I don't really do a great job with them. And just the pockets, the pockets, just through writing, I can feel it from people. They used to, you know, God, why didn't you get back with me? Or, you know, or they, you know what I mean? But now it seems to be kind of clearing, in people respecting the no, or respecting the pause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's beautiful.
What is that? That's a goddess behind you.
Yes.
What did you do that? What is that?
No, that actually came from I took it out of a book that was Artists from Mount Shasta, but I really resonated with it.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Now that looks like some of what you see, like in meditation and dimension, mind's eye, like when the light beams, you know, when they come. Have you been having any unusual experience, or have you had an increase in what we would call psychic experiences or abilities as we've gone further?
I mean, I had an experience last week where I was in a store and I felt a collective shift in the energy. I just like literally ran in to grab some greens and I was getting ready to check out. And I felt the ripple like go through the whole like field of everybody there. And then I'm like, And I see people like on their walkie-talkies and everybody's like running toward the door. And I could feel this little collective like fear and panic. And I was just like, oh, wow. I just went into my heart and just started emanating love. And I just said, affirmed, I'm calm in the face of chaos. And I'm getting ready to walk out the door. And they go, ma'am, you can't leave. There's a shooter out there. There's someone with a gun. Shots have been fired. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Like, this is going to be the end, because they're wanting to lock the place down. And I'm like, I'm not going to be part of this. So I just like, I ran my shield and just like completely called for divine protection. I'm divinely guided and protected. Just, affirmed again, I'm calm in the face of chaos. And I literally just like walked out the door. Really feel like I was able to cloak myself, because they're trying to get everybody, get back. And I just like, I literally walked right by as if it's like they didn't even see me. And just casually walked to the car.
Were there cops there already?
Not yet.
Okay,
not yet.
so
but when I got to the car, Joie was, resting in there, and I didn't run to the car. I wasn't like ducking down. I was just like, I was standing in my power, and I was just being that emanation of the love light that we are. And there was no fear. I didn't have any fear whatsoever. I was just completely confident and sure, and just walked straight to the car, sat in. Anything going on out here? And she's like, oh yeah, I just heard a bunch of gunshots. Like, oh, okay. Time for us to go, and then it's just like cop car and ambulance and fire trucks all like pouring in, and as we're like leaving the parking lot, and we're just sending love, you know. It's just like,
man, that's
wow.
an amazing story. I didn't know why you didn't tell me that from the very beginning. That's exciting. It's like another day in the life now. But that's
pretty much so. Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, but I really feel like, you know, the more we have, like, you know, are put in these situations, not only, you know, and this is kind of like my awareness is like, not only are we going to be able to stay in our place of peace and kind of come through this whole situation unseen, but we can literally shift everybody in that whole building, you know, to just completely like blast out the love to the point of where they're going to come to their center and their peace, and it's going to shift the whole field. So I believe that 100%. It's already happening.
No, I do too. I think everyone deep inside, even though this is a pretty much majority of the group, especially if you're speaking of the last 10 years, recluses, hermits, and but I do think whether it be for a day, if you live an hour out of an Asheville situation or whatever the case is, that is part of it. We were talking about this on the last show, going out into the world, so to speak, because for that very reason, to offer, because as the light sheds on the darkness, you could look at it this way: it needs all the help it can get. So get your ass out there. But really, I mean, and I think the other thing that you were talking about at the top of the show was waiting. Like you were talking about your own journey. I was waiting, and then you're like equated it to other people, and we've all been there, right? And you used the examples of Nasara, Jasara. Some people might be the solar flash. I think you mentioned that, or it could be your partner. It could be a job, a company that you work. It could be so many different things. But truly, like you were talking about, what you got to, I think a lot of people have, especially now, like as we start to go into March and April, and that is do something. Just start going. Just start heading that direction, because we know. We may not know what it looks like, but we know if we start to walk that direction, then we'll be met with the unfoldment, the universal unfoldment, highest and best. Ease and grace. Not that we don't get these shots of these acupuncture needles, hypodermics coming in from the sun every now and then, jolting out this or that. Do you feel like that if we speak to the collective body of the us's, the we, that as far as the chakras go, where are we at on the root? Because it sure seems like with survival, security, sexual distortion, much of what I've picked up from people over these last few months has been, it seemingly root chakra related, like the deepest of the deep. What are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a lot of it, if you go back to like, I think it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you aren't feeling safe and secure, that's going to be connected with the root chakra. But there's different things we can do to be able to, regardless of what we're experiencing in the present moment, to come into that place of feeling safe and secure.
Yeah, of course.
But a lot of times it's like, it doesn't even have anything to do with this present moment. It's like all this old, whether you brought it through in your cellular memory from your parents, your ancestral line, or like simultaneous lives happening, all like whatever it is, it's like, ooh, just recognizing that as a distortion and just like releasing it and letting it go.
Yeah. That's right. And and I think that's, and how you look at it. We can look at Maslow, or we can look at the, the scale of consciousness, David Hawkins.
Right.
Which is more of a, like, here's where you can go kind of thing, not where you're stuck at. but that's what you're describing, that
Right.
whole ascending, kind of thing. And I guess that's true too for us, because it doesn't, like, if you look at a representation like that, you can't skip any steps.
Right.
Nobody can. That's the equalizer right there, which is, I think, for me anyway, especially as we've gotten into the deep in the depths of our prejudices, biases, and judgments, which ultimately the harshest ones on ourselves. But that's, we're in a place now where there's, as we go deeper into this and take responsibility ourselves, that there are fewer and fewer elements involved, aspects. Okay. Fewer and fewer, especially you could say from where we come from, such as forgiveness. Once we understand anything that came as a result of the program is the program, no matter what it is, and no matter who did it, which means there's nothing to forgive. And we're moving towards this, which is amazing, because it's really happening. And I think there's a whole bunch of us that have come too far to stop now, because crazy got us here, so we might as well ride it all the way home.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, they love your necklace. May I ask what that stone is?
This is a Larimar.
Larimar. Okay.
Dominican Republic.
Cool. Very cool. Beautiful place. I would love to go someday. Yeah, this has been cool. It's good catching up with you. All your family, all your friends, everything going well. Everything's good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm navigating through what I would call another spiritual initiation at the moment.
Oh.
Part of what I've been challenged in is asking for help. It's been incredibly challenging for me to ask for help. And when my former husband left, I kind of went through the dark night of my soul, and I was really focused on just listening to spirit and trusting my guidance, and like, oh, you've got to go here, and you surrendering and allowing all these things. Pandemic happened. I was guided to do planetary grid work, and so it was like, and then I went down this whole rabbit hole of becoming a sovereign being, a living woman on land and soil. I did all these processes, and it was like I felt like I came into the awareness of the whole fuckery behind the mortgages and accessing our Sesticate trust and all this stuff. And I did all these processes, actually became an American state national, and then
Hey, what is
knocking
that?
on the door, putting the foreclosure notice. So it's like, oh wow, okay, this is in my field now, and allowing myself to experience and feel the gamut of emotions that has to do with it, of like the frustration and the anger and the guilt and the shame. And nobody knew this was happening. My mom didn't know, my family didn't know. She happened to be here when they came. And so now I have a hearing set up for March 13th. And I didn't say anything to anybody for a while. And then I finally put together a GoFundMe. I put together a little video, and it's kind of like, oh, wow, this is happening. And I needed to come back into my place of like peace with the whole thing, and forgiveness of myself and the banks and everything like that for, keeping us, trying to keep us down as 3D debt slaves. And then now that I've kind of like come back into this, like, and I was asking, God, like asking spirit, asking God, like, wow, is this the end of a chapter? Am I, supposed to, not be doing this anymore? Is this, am I supposed to pass this on, to somebody else? And the answer is just like, no, you got to reach out. You got to be transparent. You got to be real. You got to ask for help. And it's like, okay, this is the situation that I'm in, and trusting, believing that I will be provided for, that I am here doing God's work, and that it will be supported. And really, this is like a big shift for me out of this like lack mentality. because I'm not charged for a lot of what I do. I've never been paid for what I've done, running this animal sanctuary since 2001. In fact, the sanctuary owes me like over $130,000. But it's like, it's just been an imbalance in like my energy of like what I've been sharing versus what's coming in. And I'm working through this piece of worthiness and asking for help and being open to receive. So that's
not
right now. And it's like, whoo, wow, this is a big one.
But it rings. It may not be the same circumstances, right? I mean, on the surface, but it rings, I think, true for a lot of people if you look at the energetic pattern of it. And you said it. If we're coming, we could describe what we're coming out of in many different ways, but probably the most accurate ways are the ones where we have the human part of it, the emotional, the everything is part of that story, right? And your energetically, your situation is exactly that nexus point. So is the universe saying everything's got to go? Because everything that's there in part has some dualistic construction. It could be how we feel or what we think about it. It could be many, many things. But the other side of it is, if I let go, if you let go, if we let go, as we're learning to do, and trust what may be waiting on the other side of this apparent loss, which ends up being a blessing, and maybe somebody sees this show and says, oh my God, this person is incredible. And it says, I got 250 acres sitting over here on the river. Come do it. I mean, we don't know. We really don't know. We the levels of, I've been talking about this for the last few days, that something came back into my field. And that was, as I connect at night when I go to bed, or if I take a moment during the day, I have reached this fervor, this rumbling in my heart when I, as a kid, pray. And now it's more of a collaborative council meeting, however you want to describe it, but that's where I go with it. Like letting go of this, letting go of that, letting go of this. What can I control? And it's going back to what you said at the beginning, which I think is going to serve you best, any of us, which is just start doing something. Right? Just start making, like you started renovating that dome, right? I mean, that's none of these efforts with the intentions we have in the Trinity energy, serving you, serving me, serving the collective equally, are going to go unrewarded, uncompensated, reciprocated. It's not going to happen. This is universal law, equal energy exchange. And we're moving into an environment where it's starting to physicalize, which is pretty exciting. So now, how is your GoFundMe? How long have you had it going?
For about a week.
Okay.
About a week. Yeah. So I have a background in doing a little bit of publicity. So I wrote a press release, and I'm going to have the local news come out next week. And I sent some press releases to some local publications. But I'm thinking bigger. So it's like, I'm going to like reach out to the pet editor for People Magazine and like some of these other publications to get some more because it's amazing. Like I've dedicated my life to service and animals is just a portion of it. Just really seeing how, the feedback and the reactions for people that have, been able to come here and to experience this place. It's just like, wow, like this is, it's needed, so I'm really grateful, to be of service in this way. And it all just comes back to, staying in alignment, staying in that place of peace, regardless of what's in the outside illusions. So it's like, okay, this is my opportunity to practice what I preach, to walk the talk, so to speak.
I think that's what we're being asked to do too, is beat the bushes, get out there and start, I would think with, first of all, Asheville. I know Asheville is like many of these places is getting, commercialized and all that stuff. But these types of places like Asheville definitely has a progressive, somewhat progressive energy compared to overall.
Yeah.
But the fact that your cause, first of all, that it's well established, you're well established, and it involves animals, regardless of, forget about light worker circles, forget about all that. There is a huge, I think something miraculous might happen there. I don't
I
know how much
trust
money.
so.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, you get
Yeah.
out, you get out there and beat the bushes and get a couple of people to, because I mean, these days you just hand them the copy, right? I mean, it's really about getting in front of as many people as you can. But I think because of what your situation is, there is a strength to appealing to the local, the local community, and especially with the animal thing. I mean,
Yeah, because the sanctuary is a 501c3, so I have, I have that for, philanthropists. It's a tax write-off. So yeah, there's a lot that's aligning.
well, maybe you'll raise enough money just to pay the whole damn thing off.
Exactly. That's what I'm intending, right? Yeah, pay it off, get some domes built, like let's really advance this. And it's like, okay, I needed to go through this, to bring attention to what's going on here. Cause like honestly, I have historically done everything myself. I heat with wood, I do all the animals, I'm doing all the physical. Like my friend Jean comes here in the summer months. Joie's here now, so that's been great. But it's like,
who's that?
I just get in these physical doing,
Right.
because at 40 acres and a heck of a lot of animals, and it takes a lot of energy to care for this many life streams. And so it's like social media is like, it's the last thing I think about sometimes. This little, AI thing in my pocket, I just want to leave it in the house and go out and be one with the nature and animals. And then it's like, okay, months, weeks will go by. I haven't done a post. I haven't done any lives, and then it's just like, no, I need to get back on. I need to start doing this, because otherwise no one's going to know what I've got going on up here. No one's going to know what opportunity lies for people to come experience if I don't talk about it. And so it's pushing me out of my comfort zone. This is not, this is not what I've historically, resonated with. I was an incredibly introverted person. So to get on a live interview show like this is like, ooh, before I sent you the message, I typed it out and I was like, do I send it? I was like, yes, you have to. Okay. So it's like cool. pushing our edges to be able to be like, okay, this is part of what I have to do. So, okay. Navigating through the resistance.
I actually, I'm sitting here and I just remembered another person I know in North Carolina. She's got, I don't know what it is, 20, 30 acres. She's in the mountains, rural mountains. So I don't know where it is. I know I'm from Texas, so I don't look at it being that big of a state, but it is a big state. But I just opened up, I'm going to set up a messenger with my friend, because there is a whole unit there. In fact, that's the only commune style, community style living that in my work with Soulogy that I've ever run into that sustained itself. And they're still like a couple of years into it. But if you listen to the show that we did, the coding was these weren't all light workers. It wasn't like that. It was more like we're all want to do this, and and it's work, like you were talking about, taking care of the animals. They have animals, the whole 9 yards. Everything's holy. I mean, even the animals that some of them on there are carnivores, some are not. So there's this whole conglomeration of acceptance and allowance and collaboration that's really incredible. So I'm gonna put you in touch, because like my friend, she was a hairdresser for many years in northern Long Island, And so very, New York, talks New York and all that, fast pace and all that. And then one day she hit me up and she said, "Hey, I hadn't talked to you in a long time. I'm living on a farm on 50 acres." And I'm thinking, and I sold my motorcycle. And I'm like, what? But yeah. And she's putting videos out, I think I just saw one she put out that she's kind of like harvesting her first personal crop, but she shows how to make, just everything organic. And,
Yeah.
But
Well, it's been amazing because simultaneously while this has been happening, like all these other things that are confirming of what's unfolding, like moving forward, have been happening. I had someone that gifted me with a greenhouse, and I'm working with a doctor of naturopathy now, and we're actually amplifying microgreens with frequency. So it's really exciting, the possibilities for this, because we'd be able to, not only affect what we're growing here, but because it works in the quantum field for places that are experiencing drought and famine and different things like that. It's like, being able to, send them the frequency to be able to grow more crops, more production, quicker, more yield. Is like the possibilities are just like this exponentially massive. So it's super exciting. And it's like, okay, I gotta get through this little bit of a hurdle here right now. And then it's like, okay, now it's go time.
Well, yeah, right on to that at 1 hour and 11 minutes and 11 seconds. So that was that was some kind of sign. They're asking for you to put your links up in the comments. I would tell you, I would tell you, put them up on my page on Facebook, and then on YouTube, Soulogy One Studios. Put them there. There's a lot of activity there. Yeah. So, put that stuff up there, and all blessings to you and yours and all your endeavors. I know we got this. We all got this. We just have to let go, because really we won't lose anything. We'll just gain a lot more than we thought we were going to lose or had. Right. But thank you very much. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Coming in. We'll do it again later in the year. Okay. Oh, she froze. Yep. No, you're not.
Sounds great.
Oh, okay. You take care.